So we're gonna go over how to do medical volunteering, what I did, and what I recommend you do, and some mistakes that people commonly make when they try and go about medical volunteering. So why do medical volunteering? It's gonna make your application stand out a ton to people. It's gonna be super sick to have your application to see that you've actually gone to a country where there is need and that you're working on the goal of bringing care from the United States to other countries. Obviously, we can't do much because we're kind of useless, us pre-medical students, but at the same time, we're building up to something great, to something grand. Personally speaking, the first time that I did medical volunteering was in Nicaragua, and I learned about it from a doctor that I was working under at the time in a cataract surgery ward. It wasn't a ward, it was an office. Bueno, entonces, I'm going to provide you with the name of it. It's called the Roberto Clemente Health Clinic. And the reason that it's so important to actually have a link to this type of thing is because it's practically impossible to friggin' find them. I don't know why, but it's really hard. The Roberto Clemente Health Clinic asked for about $300 for 1 month of volunteering from me. You can negotiate this, and you're gonna find this out when you come to Central and South America, is that pretty much nothing has a fixed price. Anyway, it's not like Walmart, but I actually do know somebody that bargained a plant price down at Walmart, which is amazing, and props to her for doing that. So getting back into it, at the Roberto Clemente Health Clinic, they have services to distribute food and water and farming equipment, like sustainable farming equipment to the surrounding communities following the rainy season. I was working to distribute these, and I was also spending time with the doctors inside of their consultations with patients in order to understand how to speak to patients in Spanish. At the time when I was there, I really didn't speak Spanish well, and I really understood that when I went on a date with a Nicaraguan girl on the beach, and I had nothing to say. It was the most silent date I've ever been on, and then she left halfway through the date because I couldn't speak to her, and she ended up leaving with another guy. It was heartbreaking. It was also hilarious, and it sent me on this journey to learn Spanish, which has been really great. So thank you for doing that. I don't even remember your name anymore. If you see this, you don't speak English, so it wouldn't matter. So yeah, that was my first experience. It was in Popoyo, Nicaragua, which is one of the best waves in South and Central America. If you are interested in learning how to surf, the water there is warm, the people there are sweet, and it is safer than the average of Nicaragua. The way I ended up getting there, it was right after the pandemic. I just got my vaccines. American Airlines canceled my flight the night before my flight. Thanks, American Airlines. I booked a flight to Costa Rica, and I took the bus system up into Nicaragua, into rural Nicaragua, which sounds scary as a United States person, but honestly, you run into so many people from Europe here because it's just like we don't have that culture of travel. To me, it's quite normal now to take a bus from one country to another country, night buses around South and Central America. Like, I don't really get scared anymore. The second experience that I had was in Cuenca, Ecuador, and the way that I went about that is that I was just in Cuenca, Ecuador, passing through. It's one of the safest cities in Ecuador, and I like the infrastructure, and I was going by the river. It's the city of 4 rivers that come from the mountain range, Andes mountain range. Beautiful old city. And as I was walking down the street next to one of these beautiful rivers, going to a cafe to drink some piping hot Ecuadorian beautiful coffee, I see a creepy old doorway. And above this creepy, dark old doorway, it read Hospital Museum. And it was this falling apart old ancient building. It's one of the oldest hospitals in Ecuador. So naturally, I walked right in, and there was no one there. So I'm walking around this ancient, old, dark hospital. I'm walking through the surgery rooms and the consultation rooms, and it's absolutely filled with all this old surgical equipment and pictures of dissections on the walls, pictures of like surgeries and dead doctors. And suddenly I hear a voice behind me, and Felipe is this tiny little old woman, and she's like, come with me. This is already creepy. I'm like, all right. So I go with this lady, and she's like, look, like, the government doesn't give us any money, like, can you please support us with a donation? I'm like, sure. And by the way, like, is there any way I can help in the community here? And is there like a hospital I could volunteer at? Like, I'm a pre-medical student. And she's like, yeah, come with me. She takes me to an office. The office is like, go to this hospital. I go to the hospital. They're like, can you do a month here? And I'm like, sure. And they're like, all right, come at 7 a.m. tomorrow morning. And I And I volunteered there for a month, and it was amazing. I was able to watch a ton of surgeries. I was able to really work on my medical Spanish a lot and my conversational Spanish. And I made a great group of friends, Ecuadorian friends there. So highly recommend. Nothing bad happened to me. I didn't get robbed. I didn't get stabbed except like twice. Nah, I'm kidding. Nothing really bad happened at all. I just had a lovely, lovely experience. If you go out at night, take a taxi. We can go into advice about that in a second. However, I would recommend that you go directly to a place and then go directly to the hospitals and try and find volunteer programs. A lot of them don't have volunteer programs, but if you're in a bigger city, there's probably going to be somebody with a volunteer program. And I know that sounds crazy because medical students like to have everything planned out. But if you could just bajalo, bring it down a little bit, then I think you're going to experience that. Kind of going with the flow is a bit of a better way to do a bit longer travel. And especially if you want to do what I did, which I've talked about in past videos, which is take a year before medical school to explore the world. Because let's remember, when you get out of medical school, you're probably going to have a bunch of commitments and it's going to roll like a crazy ball. And I mean, I can't see the future and I wouldn't want to if I could. But I'd imagine that once we get into medical school, it's going to be 4 years of medical school, and then it's going to be residency, and then who knows, a family or something like that. So recognize that this might be the last time in your life where you're going to have some free time to travel without any strings attached to you. Unless you're a puppet, then obligatory strings. Sorry about that, puppets. Cool. So cons about traveling is you're gonna miss time. You're gonna miss time being a doctor. But honestly, like, you're gonna be a doctor for so friggin' long. Like, who cares? 1 year. Okay, next thing is it's costly. How costly is it? Well, I've been traveling for about a year and it's cost me around $11,000. So, and with that, I've gone to Indonesia, the Maldives, Mexico, Guatemala, Argentina, Chile, Peru, and Ecuador. Not that much money if you do it smart. What is smart? Smart staying in hostels. I'm on the second bunk of a bed. You sleep with earplugs. You pay between $7 and $10 a night everywhere you go. When I was renting in Cuenca, it cost $273 for 1 month's rent for a single room. Yeah, you cook for yourself, but even if you don't cook for yourself, like in Ecuador, it's $3 to get a giant meal at a restaurant with like drinks and everything. It's rad. Good food, not very healthy. Yeah, the oils are pretty unhealthy. So we're gonna run with this video. It's gonna be a day in the life of a medical volunteer in Ecuador. So here we are at the beginning of a day in beautiful Cuenca. Realistically, it usually rains. I walk to the hospital and I can't record any of the surgeries. So here are my beautiful compatriots. I do get to walk in on a lot of surgeries and Spanish, and watch a lot of surgeries, as well as take a lot of patient vital signs on the daily, conduct some EKGs as well. Here we have the Central Plaza, which I like to do a little walk through on the way home. Beautiful, beautiful plaza. You can buy all sorts of clothes and stuff in the area, and there's also, if you want to get trinkets and souvenirs, it's cheap. So after studying Spanish for a couple hours on Duolingo, I walk past some of the old churches and down this walkway near the river in order to get to jiu-jitsu. So this is the pathway by the river. Usually I don't walk this on the way back because it's kind of dangerous to walk this path at night after about 8 o'clock when it gets really dark, but I think it's a really pretty walk. I got to the University of Cuenca. It's about a 30-minute walk. I walk right in, and here you're gonna see a bunch of stray dogs, which you see all over Ecuador and all over Central and South America. Here we're going through the University of Cuenca to get to Jiu-Jitsu, which I've now gotten to. It costs $40 a month to do Jiu-Jitsu. It costs $200 in Santa Cruz, California. Here's my equipo, my team, Jiu-Jitsu. Super fun to train with them. This is some of the nightlife scene, really lively nightlife scene in Cuenca. A lot of salsa dancing and fun activities, so definitely check it out. But take a taxi when you go out because it can get a little bit dangerous, guys. And yeah, this is where I just was. This is Montañita. After my volunteering, I came here for the surf, for the good vibes, but honestly, it was a bit too party-oriented for me, so I went to the small beach town of Las Tunas. That's it. Much love, guys.